Hello, this is Bob Gray Sr. Welcome to Ministry Moments. And today I want to talk to you about reaching the poor, reaching the poor. And Mark 16:15 said, He said unto them, Go into all the world, preach the gospel. And then it says to every creature. So we need to give the gospel to every creature. So it is one at a time. The great churches only grew by one and a half or two per Sunday. And so we are not going to have gigantic growth in our churches, but we can reach somebody's daddy, somebody's mama, somebody's son, somebody's daughter with the gospel. But the emphasis today I want to bring up to you is reaching the poor. Mark 12:36 says, The common people heard him gladly, speaking of our Lord. So it wasn't the mayor, it wasn't the banker, it wasn't the governor, but it was the common people that heard the Lord and paid attention to him. And Paul's life was spared because of the common people, because he had so many people saved and they had confidence in him. And so Luke 14:13 says, Call the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind. So there's more poor people than there are rich people. And if you're going to reach people and have an impact, then you're going to have to reach the maimed, the lame, the blind, and those. Now, Luke 14:23 says, And the Lord said unto the servant, Go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. Now, the highways and hedges, the hedges were the part outside of town that protected the fruit and the vineyards. And those that made up the hedge, Ezekiel 22 talks about making up the hedge, was the laborer, the common man, the blue collar, if you please, that would make sure the there was no gap in the hedges, because the oxen and the animals would get in there and destroy the fruit and ruin the vineyard. And so the common guy, the blue collar fella, was the one that the Lord said to go up. Now, calling the poor doesn't necessarily mean financially. They may be poor in spirit. There are a lot of people that have money but are poor in spirit. So we're looking for those that are devil's beat up on, and they're struggling in life and struggling with relationships and so on, and call the poor. We've got to get the gospel to them, and there's more common people than there out there than anything. There's only one mayor, and there's only a few bankers and a few judges and a few councilmen, and so we want to reach the common man. We had politicians who would come to our church election time, and they would come to our church because we had the largest church in Arklatex Sunday School at the time. And they would come for votes, looking for votes. And we had one dear man who's running for district attorney. He lost the vote for district attorney, but he kept coming back. And then finally one day he walked the aisle and received Christ and was baptized and so on. It's exciting. So the emphasis today is call the poor. Now, let me give you some thoughts here just quickly. Number one, reaching the poor does not only refer to those in financial trouble. Call the poor. It's not just about poverty. They may be poor in other aspects of their life and struggling, and you want to get the gospel to them. Now, I always went to the poor side of town, the bad tracks, the other side of the tracks, if you please, to get people saved. But I would also balance it out by going to the rich part of town. And so I went to every segment of our society, and that's but call the poor. I loved winning poor people to Christ. I did. I loved it. I loved winning them to Christ, and I loved all of getting them saved, getting to church, baptized, getting their lives back together. And one man I found in a dumpster at McDonald's, and I got him out of that dumpster, led him to Christ, and got him in church, him and his wife and family. I love talking to the poor. I was poor, didn't know it at the time. We thought everybody lived like we live, but we were poor. But my mom and dad worked hard, paid their bills, and what they were good citizens and did what they should do and took care of the family and so on. But we were poor, but didn't know we were poor. But I've been a bus minister when I was a kid. I'd have ridden that bus and gone to church, that's for sure. All right. I said, number one, reaching the poor does not refer to lack of finances, may be poor in other areas of their life. Number two, being easier to win does not make them any less saved. Just because they're easier to win because of all that they're going through doesn't make any less saved. I love working with children. I'd rather lead the children to Christ than dumb adults. And I'm just saying that being easier to win does not make them any less saved. Number three, Local churches, don't miss this one here. Local churches were growing when we had bus ministries. Our local churches were growing when we had bus ministries. When we were going after the blind, the halt, the maimed, and the poor, and we were winning them to Christ, oh my goodness, you talk about exciting. At our height, we had 40 bus routes, 45 buses, 15,000 square foot bus barn. Very proud of that. God gave it to us. It was a blessing. But the churches back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, oh, they discovered the bus ministry. But D.L. Moody knew about it before they did. And Spurgeon knew about reaching the kids, the poor kids, before we discovered it. Dallas Billington had 9,000 in Sunday school in 1969. And he ran buses before Brother Hiles got on the scene, and others got on the scene, Tom Malone and so on. Tom Malone ran 5,000. Now, I'm just saying to you that that number one, reaching the poor does not necessarily mean lack of finances. Number two, being easier to win does not make them any less saved. We're talking about reaching the poor. That's number three. Local churches were growing when we had bus ministries. Now, this is important for you to understand. The Aid Bus Ministry, before Hyles-Anderson College started in 1972, the Aid Bus Ministry, I think he had 200 buses. Then later on, it was 265 or 85. But the buses only ran 20, 25 per bus. Brother Hiles wanted them to be pastored, wanted to be loved and cared for. And so they didn't run large numbers, but they reached their area. John Rawlings in Cincinnati had 100 bus routes, and he said to me, I didn't care. I mean, they ran 10 routes, that's fine, 10 more than I would have had. And so it was not the matter of running 100 or 200. Like, you see, really, when Hyles-Anderson started, that's when the nuts came on the scene. And the B Sunday school, C, D, E, and F, and may have been all the way to Z by the time he got done. But anyway, the bus ministry was small attendance per bus, but oh my goodness, were they loved. When I was there, in the 70s, early 70s, I was a part of the first 4-year class of Hyles-Anderson. Our kids had their Sunday school teachers visit every Saturday. Yeah, 20,000 in attendance, 100,000 members, but our kids got a visit from the Sunday school teacher. Why? The classes were small enough that they could visit the class. Sometimes pastors say, oh, I can't get my Sunday school teacher to visit. Well, the classes are too big. That's one reason. All right, we're talking about reaching the poor, the every creature approach. Number one, reaching the poor does not refer necessarily to bad finances. Maybe poor in spirit. Marriage is bad. A lot of things going wrong. And you want to reach the poor. Number two, being easier to win does not make them any less saved. No, God's working on them. God's getting them ready. They're ordained works. So what are we doing? We're Ephesians 2:10. God's setting them up. He's working their life, working our life, and he wants us to get to them. Number three, local churches were growing when we had bus ministries. Maybe we ought to get back to it. You think? Maybe we ought to get back to running the buses. Oh, we're saving it's a lot harder. Gas is so high now. Well, I didn't get in the bus business because gas was cheap. Not going to get out of it. I remember when the gas got back up $4 and $5. Oh yeah, I remember before. I remember Jimmy Carter days. Go ahead and vote another Democrat in. But I remember the Jimmy Carter days. And I remember when the accounting lady came to me and the bus director and said, we don't have enough money to put gas in the buses. Gas has gone too high. I went on a Sunday night and said, I need X number. I don't even remember now. It's been so long ago. I need 50 people to give $20 or something like that. Raise your hand. It was after the day's over. Raise your hand. And people were, I'll give 20, I'll give 20, I'll give 20. And we'd raise that money and we could run it for another week. I'd come back and say, okay, got another week now. Gas still high. Got to have your help. And so we'd run another 50 people, give whatever, $20 or so on. And we raised it. Then gas started going down. Mrs. Ayers came to me and said, preacher, guess what? The gas has gone down and you keep raising that money on a Sunday night. She said, we've got $15,000 cash. What do we do? I said, I'm going to keep raising money and you buy buses. That's what we're going to do. And so I said, number one, talk about reaching the poor, reaching every creature. Reaching the poor does not refer to lack of finances only. Number two, being easier to win does not make them any less saved. Number three, local kids are easier to win than adults, but that doesn't make them any less saved. All right. Number three, local churches were growing when we had the bus ministry, reaching the poor. Well, churches were growing. Number four, God blesses churches for reaching the poor, the halt, the maimed, the lame, and the blind. God blesses. God will take care of your finances. God will take care of it. Don't cut back. You cut back, you'll not have as many people saved. And baptism tells on you. That baptismal number tells you how many people are getting saved, how many you got for Sunday school. It's really the only legitimate number, if you want to look at church growth, that's going to expedite you reaching and growing like you should. All right, talk about reaching the poor. Don't forget, every creature. Number one, reaching the poor does not refer only to lack of finances. Number two, being easier to win does not make them any less saved. Jesus came to seek and to save that which was lost. That's given to the Luke 19, the adult chapter. In the children's chapter, Matthew 18, came to save that which was lost. You don't have to seek a child. A child knows they're sinners. A child knows that you just talk to them about being saved. They want to be saved. And I always did it in front of their parents to make sure their parents knew what I was doing in talking to their child. Then that gave me a chance to talk to the parent. So I said, number one, reaching the poor does not refer to lack of finances only. Being easier to win does not make them any less saved. A child is not less saved than an adult because they're easier to win. Number three, local churches were growing when we had bus ministries. Maybe we want to reevaluate what we're trying to do here. Number four, God blesses churches for reaching the poor. Number five, small Sunday school classes is the secret. Small Sunday school classes. Brother Hiles had 800 classes, Sunday school classes, in the early 70s when I was there with my wife and children, going to college. Been to college once, went again. Sit there in classes with a bunch of young men, women, boys, and girls. But small Sunday school, they're in 20, 25 apiece. That's the A Sunday school. I'm not talking about B, C, and D. When the college students got there, things got crazy, and Brother House had to keep them busy, keep them out of trouble. The A bus ministry I already mentioned ran 20, 25 per bus. Oh yeah. Then number six, baptize weekly. Baptize weekly. We're talking about reaching the poor. Reaching the poor. You get that momentum going. You get that snowball rolling, and I tell you, you couldn't stop if you wanted to. I remember we first came to Longview in 1980. Brother Winters and I, we went. It was him and I. We never went solo together. We separated. He went his way. I went my way. Our goal was to have somebody down that aisle on Sunday. You know, we averaged 9 baptisms a week for the first few months there. Yeah. Oh yeah. 3 blacks, 3 Mexicans, 3 snotty-nosed bus kids. But we did it. Had it going. God blessed. We had it going. Do you realize before we knew it, we baptized 500? They'd only baptized 52 the year before. And do you know that first year we baptized 1,219 and never slowed up. Never slowed up. It just kept getting every week. Every week, I remember standing at the altar with Brother Winters, and I looked up at that baptistry. We baptized 20 the Sunday before, and we were rejoicing together. And I looked up, and I said, Brother Winters, did you ever dream that we would do that? Did you ever dream? And do you think it'll keep going? I remember us talking to each other. You think it'll keep going? And it did keep going. The last year I pastored, we baptized 4,464 people. 153 of those were ones I was able to lead to Christ and get down the aisle the year before. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that exciting? Oh, you want to reach the poor. That's every creature, Mark 16:15. Mark 12:37, the common people heard him gladly, speaking of Christ. Luke 14:13, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind. Luke 14:23, and the Lord said unto the servant, go out in the highway and hedges and compel them coming that my house may be filled. If you got a church that seats, building seats 200, fill it. You got to see 100, fill it. We filled it up so much we had to build a balcony. We had 10 sections of lower floor, 12 sections in the balcony. Oh yeah, balcony set 720. Yeah, we had to. We had to. All right. What's the secret? Call the poor. Reach the poor. There's more of them than our bankers. There are more of them than are your millionaires. There are a lot more of them than the business tycoons in town. They'll reach the poor, reaching the poor, every creature. Then reach the poor does not necessarily refer to lack of finances. Number two, being easier to win does not make them any less saved. Number three, local churches were growing when we had bus ministries, small in number on the routes, but had a lot of bus ministries going in America. You getting the job done. Yeah. But they may run 20 on a bus or 25 on a bus, but they were all loved and cared for. Number four, God blesses churches reaching the poor. Number five, small Sunday school classes is the key. Number six, baptize weekly. Get that momentum going. Get that snowball rolling. You couldn't stop if you wanted to. I mean, it was just super. There's nothing like it. Oh, Sunday night church. Woo! People be busy and all the other ministries, and they come back on Sunday night. Boy, we had a time. We had a time. Get some of those old cassette tapes and listen to those services. Exciting. Just wonderful, wonderful. Why? We reach the poor. Reach the poor. I think we've let some guys in California talk about the beeper and the cell phone and the laptop, and they put a rich man up on a wall and they say what to look for, what to look for. That's a bunch of junk. And we can't do it anymore like you used to do it. Oh, it's not true. It's being done all over America by small churches with good young men and getting the job done. Oh, we haven't seen it's always an ebb and flow. There's a height of this something and the low of something. And there was a low period before Jack House came on the scene. There was a low period before John Rice came on the scene, J. Frank Norris. But we may be in a low period now, but not for long. If we'll listen to those great men of God of the past and employ what they told us to do, how to do it, oh, there's going to be some great days ahead. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of Ministry Moments every Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central Time. And then Saturday Soul Winning. Got to win the folks to Christ. Let's get at it. Have a great weekend.